Well, welcome everybody. This is the Duke of Edinburgh Award Gold Expedition, Canoe Expedition training, pre the training and the practice. So it's really great to have you all here. People from all sorts of different schools. And if you are coming from a school where nobody else has come with you, and there's quite a few people that are joining us on Gold who know nobody, so impressed. You will benefit so much from it. And certainly people who've come in previous years who haven't known anybody have gone away having made really, really good friends. So yeah, if you're here and you don't know anybody or you haven't met anybody else yet, I just want to say how impressed it is. So welcome everybody. Really great that you've made it, even though some of you I know have got exams at the moment. So it's great to have you here. Really hoping by the end of tonight, you've got all the information that you need in order to have a really enjoyable and successful expedition. Just want to welcome a couple of people. Okay, so you'll see in the middle of this picture to the right in the blue jacket is Rod. Rod is currently on his way back from Scotland. He has just canoed all the way around Scotland. So he went through Cape Wrath about 2 Saturdays ago, all down the west coast, then up the Grand Canadalian Canal, has gone up the east coast, round John O'Groats, and just this morning finished. So he's now driving back. So he will be in Cambridgeshire next week, and he is one of our instructors. Then you've got Martin. Give us a wave, Martin.
Hello.
Martin's coming down from the north. He's going to be with us. And Anna's there, and Anna did her gold with us last year. And I always think it's really good to have the insights of people who've done their expedition before, so that they can pass that on. You somehow listen to them much more than you listen to me. But anyway, Anna's great, and she'll give you the wisdom that she's got for having done it. So what's the plan? Want to go through 20 conditions, skills checklist, talk about the medical Google forms. We need those back. Your COVID requirements, what a pain, but at least we're able to run expeditions. We'll talk about kit and equipment. We'll talk about food, stoves and cooking. We'll make sure you know where you're finishing and starting from. We'll confirm the rules, first aid and mobile phones, and then we'll answer any questions that you might have. So this is your practice expedition, your training and practice expedition. So that means that we are fulfilling one of the DofE 20 conditions. So all of the expeditions are covered by the DofE 20 conditions. They are in your Dropbox. I will send you the link to the Dropbox again tomorrow morning in case you've lost it. But the DofE 20 conditions are what we have to assess your final expedition on. And one of the things it says there is you have to be properly trained. So that's what we're doing when you're coming either on the 1st of June or the 29th of May. That's part of your training. So it does mean that the time you finish on the third day, having done your practice expedition, you should be able to tick all the boxes on the skills checklist. So things like, can you paddle forward? Do you know how to take a boat on and off the trailer? Do you know how to rescue a boat? Do you know how to look after the environment? There's a whole list of things that are all really common sense. And I know there's quite a few of you who've done both your bronze and silver expeditions with us already. So you should be well competent in them now, but hopefully for gold, you'll be upping that standard so that you could actually now start training people and passing that wisdom on to other people. So at the end of the practice expedition, you should be able to tick all the boxes there on the skills checklist to confirm that you do know what you're doing. And that then means that we can say, yep, you can go on and do a remotely supervised assessed expedition. If you then take a photo of that skills checklist or scan it, you can then put that onto your eDofE account. And that's more evidence that you've actually completed everything. Okay, so that's a skills checklist, and that will be in the Dropbox. Okay, talking about the Dropbox, in the Dropbox, I will put the information that summarizes this meeting. And one of the things there is there's a Google medical and emergency contact form. All right. Things change. So you did all fill out this form. It's adapted slightly because I've put some other questions in there. So please don't get frustrated that you're giving us the information again. It's much easier for us to have it all on one sheet so that we've then got everybody who's coming on the 29th of May on one Google sheet, and everyone who's coming on the 1st of June on another sheet. And we know what your medical conditions are, if you've got any, and we also know who to phone in case of emergency. On that sheet as well, some people have been asking if they can borrow tents and stoves. So I've put there a question, do you want to borrow a tent? Do you want to borrow a stove? Really happy to lend them to you. We do charge, because if we don't charge, we end up having to pay for bits that get lost, or and then we have have to clean them and dry them anyway. So if you want to rent one from us, that's fine. You will need to bring £5 in cash and give it to us at the start if you would like that. Okay, but those Google Megaltor forms need to be completed by 4 o'clock on Monday, this coming Monday. That means that the medical bit, all those emergency forms are all sorted. Okay, it will be in the letter, but just to kind of remind you, really, really important. If you want to come on expedition, those forms need to be filled out. Okay. COVID and canoeing. All right, so I'm really pleased that the government has allowed us to do it. As you know, we had hoped to do it at Easter, but at Easter, the government didn't allow more than 6 people to meet outside, and they also didn't allow mixing of accommodation or people from different families to mix together. We are allowed that now. Campsites are open, so that's great. It means we can go ahead. So we have got the Visit England, we're good to go kite mark, which is really nice. But we got that because we agreed to certain, well, we put forward what our risk assessment was. And for those of you who did expeditions with us last year, you'll know it worked really well, but we do have to stick to them. So some of them are, your camping will be socially distanced. So that means your tent will be 2 meters from somebody else in your group, and you will be camping. You can see here on these on this photo, these ropes, all right? So those ropes will rope off each area of the campsite, and you'll be in your roped area. On the campsite, so the Millennium Wood campsite, so your second night, you're allowed fires on that campsite, and we're going to hope, the aim is that we're going to have a fire pit in each area so that each group can have a fire. It will be small, but you'll each all be able to have one. The ground at the second campsite is made of peat, so we have to get hardcore on the bottom. So we're going to have a thing that means that the fire can't go onto the ground, because then what then happens is the fire burns downwards, and it can burn through the peat for 5 or 6 days. It can go on for weeks, and then fire engines have to come, and it's a nightmare. So we don't want that to happen. So you will be roped off in roped off areas. They're quite big. The campsites are big. They are private campsites. It's only us on them, so there's no mixing with anybody else. Okay. So camping socially distanced. You're in individual tents. So make sure if you're using a tent that you're borrowing from a friend of the family, or it's your own tent that you're using, make sure you put it up before you come on expedition. It's amazing how many times people turn up an expedition with a tent they've borrowed and it doesn't work, all right, because they haven't checked it. They haven't got the right fly, or they haven't got the right poles, or all sorts of things go wrong. So make sure you've checked your tent before you come on expedition. The same applies to your cooking stove. So it's individual stoves, okay, and individual cooking. So again, if you're using a stove that you're borrowing from somebody, please make sure that you've tested it and you know how it goes. Try and cook the food on it. Because it's a canoeing expedition, a small wok, I think, works really well. I was sea kayaking the last couple of weeks up in Scotland, and that's all we had. We had a small wok on the top of a transit, and it just works really well. So you might want to consider that. And of course, weight isn't an issue because you're in a canoe. One of the other things you are going to need to bring is a hand wash kit. So a bowl, I think having a bowl that's got a lid on it, so a big plastic tub, in that you can put your soap, in that you can put your hand gel, in that you can put your toilet roll, and in that you can also put the nappy sacks or doggy bags. Because if you're needing to go to the toilet along the riverbank, you need to make sure that you take any toilet roll that you've used with you, okay? Girls, if you're on your periods during expedition, obviously that's a really good thing to carry, because then you can put your sanitary pads or whatever into them. Anna was part of a call that I did a few weeks ago with a couple of other girls on how they managed expeditions as girls. So if you go onto our YouTube channel, you'll see their conversation with me. Lots of people have commented about how positive they are and how no nonsense. So don't want girls to worry about having to cope with their periods. It's all very practical, very down to earth. Have a look at that YouTube channel. I was really impressed, and lots of other people have been. So hand wash kit, you need to bring your own. You'll have your own paddle and your own buoyancy aids. They're all numbered. So you will keep your paddle, you will keep your buoyancy aid. And the same with boats. You'll have your boat and your buoyancy, and where you sit will stay the same once you've worked out where you're going to go. So just to summarize that, you'll have your own tent, own camping stuff, own cooking equipment. You'll have your own food. It's not group food. You'll have your own hand gel. We are recommending 1 mask per day, just because if you're going to be helping somebody else put up their tent, or if there's a medical emergency and you've got to get close to somebody, having a mask could be useful. Having soap, really important. Soap's so much better than soap gel. Just have hard soap. Plastic tub, and then really crucial there, 2 large mouth water containers. So they need to be big, because we're going to pour water in from great big containers that we've got. And if you've got a tiny water bottle, it's just really difficult, and water gets wasted. So a large water bottle, and ideally you want to be able to carry 4 litres of water, right? So 2 really large bottles is really good. Weather looks great, and the risk is that you'll not drink enough and therefore get headaches. We had somebody last year who didn't drink enough. In fact, her water fell over. She then got very hot and then felt sick, and actually didn't finish her practice expedition because of it. So make sure you bring enough to carry water with you. And then finally, a permanent marker pen and your map. So all of you have done your route cards. So on your eDofEPre, somebody in your group has got the maps, all right? So on the letter that we've sent to you already, the second one, it has the actual map. So if you want to buy the actual maps, that's great. It's only 1 map for this expedition, so that's really nice. But if you want to print off the maps, you need to print them off in colour. They need to be map size. So you need to, when you print them off, make sure it's 1 to 50,000. You're not printing a road map, because finding where you are going down a river with a road map is really difficult. So it needs to look like a proper Ordnance Survey map, and you need to laminate it. Just having a sheet in a pouch, a plastic pouch, doesn't work. They all get wet. So you must laminate your maps, and you must have a map individually. So each person needs to have a map. Okay, so that's the COVID stuff. The other thing that we're putting into place now is that instead of you sending us back a form to confirm that you're going to do everything, we're going to send you a Google form. So you're going to send in the medical emergency one. That's going to be in by Monday. On Monday, we will then send you another Google form. And on that Google form, it's the COVID Google form. You are going to also confirm that you will take a COVID test before you come on expedition. Seeing as not all you're taking them in school anyway, it seemed to make sense that before you come on expedition, you take a lateral flow test. If it's negative, great, fantastic. If it's positive, sorry, we don't want you on expedition. I'm guessing you won't be feeling great anyway, and you won't want to come. You'll also confirm on this Google form that you haven't had symptoms and you haven't been with somebody who've had symptoms, and that you will keep to the COVID rules that we've set. And you will return it to us by Thursday, the 27th of May. Some of you are coming on expedition on the 29th. Others of you I know are coming on the 1st of June, but we need to process them. So if you could get those back to us by then, we will send you emails to remind you. Okay, so that's the COVID stuff. What do you need to do between now and when you come on your expedition to get ready? All right, it's always the preparation that means that you then have a really good expedition, because then you're not worried about stuff, you haven't forgotten stuff, you'll be warm and dry and well fed and happy. Okay, so your kit and equipment, really, really important that you start sorting that. There's a kit list on the Dropbox. Okay, so on the Dropbox, you can go through everything that's in the kit list, and you can make sure that you've got, have a look at what the weather's doing. All right, the weather looks really good. The evenings will be cold, so you do need to have a waterproof, you need to have fleeces. So just make sure that you've got what you need. What's on that list is what we recommend that you have. If you come with less, you risk getting cold or being miserable. If you come with more, it probably won't fit into the barrels. Now you can see that this group here, when they arrived for their expedition, they had everything either in dry bags, which is what these are here, or they were in the IKEA bags or laundry bags. So the stuff that's in the IKEA bags and the laundry bags, all right, that will have then go, hopefully they've got them in plastic bags inside. So your clothing you want to have in a thick plastic bag, which will then go into the waterproof blue barrels. You just don't want to be putting your clothes and sleeping bag without a plastic bag into the blue barrels. You want to have everything nicely organized. If you can get hold of a dry bag, so Sports Direct do dry bags, and you can put your sleeping bag in one and your clothes in another, that would be really useful, particularly those of you that are aiming to come to Scotland. Really, the Scottish trip, it'd be much better if you could have dry bags for your clothes and your sleeping bag, and then they will then go into the waterproof barrels. Read tents and stoves, I've already mentioned it. Make sure you got it sorted. If you want to borrow from us, great, but you need to let us know. And if you're using somebody else's, put it up, use it, practice it, make sure it works. Okay. What you're going to be wearing. Okay, so your Canoe Clothing. These are girls who did their gold with us last year. You can see what they're wearing. It could be that you want to wear shorts. That's fine if you want to wear shorts. It may be warm enough. The risk is people wear shorts or skimpy tops. Boys then tend to take their tops off and then they get really sunburned, and the same happens with people's legs because the way the sunlight reflects. So just make sure you've got something, a light shirt or a sarong or something to go over your legs so you don't get really badly sunburned. But you will need to arrive on expedition in your Canoe Clothing. So don't arrive in jeans, because where are they going to go? Make sure that you arrive in your Canoe Clothing so that then you can get on with it straight away. Certainly those of you starting in Thetford, you're going to be getting into your boats and starting your expedition straight away. So you need to be very, very well organized. Okay. We've done a whole load of videos on kit and clothing and how to pack your barrels and how to pack the boat on our YouTube channel. So really recommend that you have a bit of browse of that. If you could subscribe to it, I think that always helps us. Any comments, as long as they're positive, no, any comments would be really useful, because I think it just means that other people are likely to look at them. So Rod and I spent a whole day filming up in the North Wales, I think it was in October or November, and I think it's really helpful. So most of you, I'm sure it's all common sense, but sometimes it's really nice to hear it. And Rod goes through what to wear if it's warm, what to wear if it's cold, what to wear if it's wet, what to wear if it's windy, so that you've got a whole list of things there that you can look at. Food. So food's really important on DofE expeditions, particularly canoeing ones, because you've got loads of time sitting around at the campsite at the end of each day, and you can cook and you can enjoy it. So plan your food, plan your menus, have a look at the YouTube as well. We've done a breakfast, snacks, lunches and an evening meal, separate YouTubes on them, so that you can practice, you can have a look at those, and just make sure that the food you bring is something you're going to really enjoy. Anna, just so that they get a break from my voice, can you remember what you cooked for your on your expedition for your evening meals?
For evening meals, I did pasta quite a bit. But I think porridge for breakfast is a really good one. But make sure you bring something to flavour it with, because you can get porridge sachets that are sort of eco-friendly and they compost really well. But I didn't bring anything to flavour it with. So just shoveling dry sort of plain porridge into your mouth isn't very nice. So bring like a little jams or something. And sausages as well is a really good one, because you can cook them for breakfast and then have them for lunch, or they'll keep for your evening meal. Or like frozen food tends to keep. So if you bring it frozen, then it will keep for longer and you can make that fresh later. Yeah. And I would say definitely go for vegetables. I didn't bring enough vegetables at all. I brought not enough food really on my practice, so I ended up eating sort of 3 or 4 brioche a day to try and keep me going on the practice. But what my friend brought was two big cucumbers essentially, and she would have one as a snack sort of throughout the day, and then the other she'd cut up and have in her meal. And like carrots and stuff, they pack quite well and they're dry, so you can just sort of put them in a bag and forget about them.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, vegetables. So stir fries are really good. So you can just bring the vegetables, so carrots and sweet potato and squash. You can just bring them whole and then just cut them up. So yeah, definitely. But it is interesting. People often say they bring too many snacks. So having too much sweet stuff is that people just don't tend to eat it. So when I was up in Scotland last week, I had lots of flapjack, and I actually made cheese flapjacks. I think somebody called them cheese jacks or something. They were really nice actually. So they have cheese in and spring onion, and they were just, again, it's that slow, like porridge, it's slow release energy, and it keeps you going for longer, and it's not too sweet, which yes, it's interesting that people don't want stuff that's too sweet. So this is all stuff that you can do in the next week and a bit, so that by the time you come on the campsite, all your kit is sorted, you've got food galore. And I'd really practice if you're cooking your main meal and you don't normally cook at home. You certainly don't normally cook on a little stove. And if you've got your own stove, practice cooking on it. So you don't bring too much stuff. You won't go through a 5 kilo bag of pasta. So how much pasta do you need for 2 nights? That'll be really good for you in order to work that out for when you go onto your assessed expedition. The other thing to make sure you've got is your maps. So your maps need to be laminated. You could also mark them. So you can mark on the maps, as we've explained to you how to do, so that you can mark on your maps where the start is, where the end is. You can put a little dot for every kilometre going down. And then as you go down river, you will use your maps to write on them what time you've got to each place, what time you thought you might get there, what time do you really get there, how fast are you really paddling. So your map becomes your working document, okay? And again, at the end, you can take a photo of it and put it onto your eDofE as evidence of what you've done, okay? So that's the kind of pre-preparation stuff. So we've got 2 different dates. So some of you are arriving on May the 29th, which is a Saturday. Some of you are arriving on Tuesday, June the 1st. Some of you are arriving at Thetford, and you have a whole load of staggered starts, all right? So it's really important that you look where you've got to arrive to in Thetford. It's quite a large car park there, but if you all arrive at the same time, you won't fit. So we really do need you to arrive at the time we've asked you to arrive at. And you do need to arrive with everything organised, because we need the first group that arrives to get their act together, fill their barrels, get the boats off the trailer and start paddling off downriver. So Rod will be joining you, and Martin will be there as well. I'll be there too. So you will go off downriver, and that first day is really about moving water paddling. All of you, I think, just about, have done canoe expeditions with us before, those of you starting at Thetford, and that's why you're coming early. That's why you're starting at Thetford, because you're also then, most of you had starting there, going on to the doing your assessed expedition in Scotland, which means that you've got to get moving water practice. So that bit of the Little Ouse is beautiful. You'll see loads of kingfishers, but you'll also have some moving water, so you can learn how to what's called break in and break out of a eddy on the river. You'll learn how to line your boats down a weir. So there's all sorts of things you'll learn on that day. So that's a learning day, that's a training day, and then you will end up at Hockwold in the evening. The rest of you, 2 o'clock, you're arriving at Hockwold cum Wilton. I've sent you directions on how to get here. Please believe them, please follow them. It does look like you're going down a track that's you're not meant to be going down. There is a sign that says there's a private road. It is a private road. Charles and Nicola are the farmers, and they're lovely, and they allow us to use their field to access the river. And you will see my great big flag, so that will inspire you that you're on the right way. But please Google Earth it beforehand. You are obviously going towards a river, so if you're going in a different direction, that's wrong. You have got your map, so you should be able to guide whoever's directing you as well. 2 o'clock, it's really important you don't come earlier than 2, because I will be upriver with the others that have started earlier. So if you come earlier, that will really confuse Charles and Nicola, because they feel very, very responsible when people arrive on their land. So please don't arrive before 2. It'd be really nice if you didn't arrive much after 2, because at 2:30 we've got some bronzes and silvers that are arriving as well. So it'd be really nice to get all of you folks sorted before the next lot come. Okay, you're all going to arrive, whether you're arriving in Thetford or Brandon, with your kit in IKEA type bags. All right, that's because if you bring a rucksack or wheelie bags or anything like that, you're going to leave those bags in the bottom of the canoe trailer, and we can't fit in 30 rucksacks and all the rest of the stuff that will go into the canoe trailer. So bring your stuff in the IKEA type bag. It may be that all your stuff doesn't fit into your barrel, and you'll use one of your IKEA or laundry type bags to put in it the stuff that's isn't going to get damaged if it gets wet, like your sleeping mat or your stove. If they get wet, they'll be fine. Tins, the vegetables Anna was talking about, all of those could go into the IKEA bag if they don't fit into your barrel. The other thing, certainly those of you coming down from Thetford you'll need a day bag, all right? In the day, you don't want to keep opening your barrels during the day to get your food out or to find your sun cream or your hat. You want to be organised. So your day bag is just a small rucksack, and in that you'll have your food for the day, your 2 litres of water, your sun cream, your hat, your waterproof, your hand gel, your soap and your washing up ball. All that sort of stuff that you need during the day, you'll have in that day bag. And that can probably go under your seat when you're canoeing, or under the straps. So there's elastic straps on the front, you can put it under there. Okay, so you'll arrive in your canoe clothing, right? Check what the weather's doing. It's 9 o'clock, some of you are arriving, so it'll be cool then. So you'll probably have your waterproof tops on just to keep yourselves warm, but you will need hats. It does look like the weather's going to be great, so make sure you've got hats that are going to protect the whole of your face and your neck as well. Okay, those of you coming down from Thetford, you come down the Little Ouse, beautiful bit of river, and you'll go through the lock at Brandon, and then that's probably where Rod will leave you, and you'll do the last bit on your own, and then you'll end up at Hockwold. Those of you that are coming straight to Hockwold, the first thing we'll do is we'll get you to get your tents up to make sure that you know how to put them up, and we'll explain the best way to do that. Then we'll probably get you packing your barrels, okay, show you how to use them and how to pack them with the stuff that you aren't going to need. So everybody gets one of these barrels, and they're about 50 litres, so they're about the same size as a rucksack. But of course, you're not going to have to carry them on your back, so it means that putting in heavy stuff doesn't matter. Then we'll get onto the river, and we'll teach you some paddle skills, so going forwards, going backwards, how to get in and out of the boats, how to get the boats off the trailer, all those really practical things, so that by the end of the expedition, you are competent paddlers. Hopefully by the end of the expedition, for those of you who haven't got it, we'll get your Start Award, which is one of the British Canoe Union awards. Hopefully the end of the assessed expedition, some of you may even get your Explore or Discover Award, which are the next ones up. Okay. We'll also talk to you about how to rescue the boats if somebody capsizes. The boats are really, really stable. You only capsize if you're a muppet and you decide to stand on the back and bounce it up and down, which is great fun. But it does mean you are likely to capsize, or if you all both of you lean onto one side, you're probably a capsize. So when we do rescue skills, we'll teach you what to do, but the likelihood of you actually having to rescue a fully laden boat is very, very unlikely. We'll also talk about first aid. So you've all done first aid training. Those of you who haven't done it, I'll send you the link. But we'll also talk about the things that might really happen. So it's unlikely that you'll have somebody who'll collapse and you'll need to do CPR. The likelihood is you could get a tick. In fact, the people I was with in Scotland last week, 2 of them got ticks. I'd never actually seen a tick. I saw a tick walking across one of our ground sheets, but it didn't attach itself to me. I obviously wasn't tasty enough. So we will talk about what really might happen and what you can do to prevent that. There's always different people in each group who've either got asthma or allergic to things, or everyone's got different medical issues. And so in your groups, we'll get you to talk about that and how you want other people to support you if something goes wrong. So if you suddenly get an asthma attack, do the rest of your group know where your spare inhaler is? If some of you are allergic to things and carry EpiPens, does everybody know where the second EpiPen is? Have you explained to them how to use an EpiPen? So we'll do that training so that everybody knows what to do if something happens to you. Okay. You've all put on your route cards about the aim of your expedition. I've just recently got into geocaching and have noticed that there's quite a few geocaches coming down the river. That's certainly something that you could look for, or you could even put your own geocaches there, so that the first group doing down on the 29th of May, you could leave geocaches for the next lot that are coming. But you certainly do need to have an expedition aim. This is gold, so those of you done bronze and silver, it is definitely an up in the game. Okay, so DofE will expect you to have an aim, as we will, but you need to have a really good aim, which you will be doing your presentation on. So once this is back to the campsite, that first day, the group coming down from Thetford, when you get there, you'll do your cooking. Those of you who've arrived at 2 o'clock, you'll also do your cooking, and we'll make sure you know how to cook safely and use the stove safely, and we'll give you ideas of other food that you could use or cook if you haven't, if you're not that inspired with what you've got. Then the evening, for those who've been on the campsite from 2 o'clock, you can go off and have free paddle time. This is a great time. Groups just go off and paddle up and down the river, see kingfishers, and enjoy kind of an evening paddling on the river. But it's a really good way of developing your skills, because we've taught you, and it's now just making sure that you've got those skills honed, because the next day you would be paddling off downriver. So that night you'll sleep hopefully beside the river. Right? It's great when Nicola and Charles haven't got the cows on this bit, and you can sleep right next to the river. Sometimes we're on the field over, so it's a bit of a walk to get to the river, but hey, we'll just see what they say when we get there. So you'll paddle off downriver, okay, and we'll meet you at certain places, and you, as it's gold, are doing 8 hours of activity. It kind of depends what the wind is doing and how much current there is, as to whether actually the journey would take you 8 hours. If it's not going to take you 8 hours, you're going to need to explain to us what you're going to do with the other bit of time. So are you going to go out and walk and go and just explore something? Are you going to set up a geocache? Are you going to do some yoga? But really important that for gold, you aren't just sitting on the side of the river whiling time away, that it's a productive use of time. And you'll need to be able to tell us what you've done with your time. So on the second night, you'll be at the Millennium Wood campsite. And the good thing with this site is that you can have fires. So in your groups, we will organise for there to be fire pits for everybody, so that you'll gather around your own fire pit. Last year, we only had one fire pit, and so we had to have a rota of those who were using it. But this year, our aim is to get enough fire pits set up so that everybody can have their own fire, which is great. Okay, next day, off you go, downriver, so down the Grey Twos. You'll probably end up going to Denver and then coming back up the River Wissey, and then you'll end up at Wissington. Depending what the wind is doing, if the wind is in its normal direction, you get to sail, which is what this lot were doing, which is just great fun. But we'll just have to see what the wind does. We are saying that you will be ready to, having been debriefed, having completed your practice expedition and completed your training, that you will be ready to leave by 2 o'clock. Okay, so that means that you'll all arrive in the campsite sometime between 12 and 1. We will then debrief you. We will then explain to you what happens next. You will then clean your boats, put your boats on the trailer, empty your barrels, get all organised, get all sorted, and we will then tell you if you have successfully completed your gold practice expedition, because it's only when you've successfully completed it that you can then go on and do your assessed gold expedition. So hopefully you'll all do that, and that will all be excellent. All right. The other things just to kind of remind you about, we've said them before, but it's always good to remind people. We do have a few rules. I don't like rules, I'm more guidelines, but we do have a couple of rules. One is if you're next to the river or on the boat, your buoyancy aid is on and it's done up. We'll explain to you how to put your buoyancy aid on and how to do it up. But if you're next to the river or on the canoe, your buoyancy aid has to be done up. And the other thing is, and hopefully you'll want to do this, you'll want to cool off. We're not allowed swimming on DofEPre expeditions, but we are allowed cooling off. And the difference is that you keep your buoyancy aid on, and there's somebody on the side of the bank to see where you've gone, because you can see even the water here, it's quite dark. If someone gets into trouble and goes down, it's much easier to know where they've gone down than trying to hunt the whole river. So somebody's on the side of the bank checking where they are, and you're all wearing buoyancy aids, and you certainly aren't swimming on your own. So there's at least 2 people, one in the river and one on the side watching. Okay. Toilets on the first campsite, each group will have their own toilet, or between 2 groups you'll share them, and we'll explain to you the COVID toilet protocol. But the toilets are really nice. We've got some new tents this year, and there are bins in the toilet so that if you need to dispose of anything in there, you can do. Your own rubbish that you create as a result of going downriver and all the stuff you bring with you, you have to take with you. So I recommend you get rid of as much packaging as you can before you come on expedition. It's amazing how much food is packed up in cardboard and plastic and all the rest of it. Try and get rid of as much of that at home so you don't have to carry that rubbish with you. Okay, I think we're nearly there. So 2 forms that you're going to get back to me. Tomorrow I will send you a letter, and in that will be the link for the Google medical form. That needs to be in by Monday, May the 24th. And then on Monday I will send you the COVID Google form, and you need to get that back to us by Thursday. And in that one, you're confirming that you will take a COVID test and that you will stick to the COVID principles, and you will tell us if you've been in contact with somebody who's had COVID and therefore won't come on the expedition. But not had that so far. So and we've got so low COVID in Cambridgeshire at the moment. Hopefully that will all be right. As you know, we've got a Facebook page, and we'll post their photos, those of you who have given permission, photos of the expedition so parents can see what's happening and what's going on. We'll put this recording of this Zoom call will go on the Facebook page tonight or tomorrow morning as well, and it will also be in the Dropbox. So I feel I've talked for far too long. Before we go and answer any questions, Anna, do you want to say if there's any wisdom? What would you pass on this time last year? What do you wish that we'd said to you, or what you learned about either food or the kit that you think, no, you must bring that with you? That's really essential, having done your expedition.
I would say if you can, try and organise at least one tent repair kit in your group. I don't think you'll encounter this problem, but we were camping with cows, and there was a bit of a trampling of tent incident, which led to a couple of broken poles. And luckily, just by coincidence, somebody's mum had put a tent repair kit in just at the last minute in their bag, and it really came in handy, because otherwise we would have been in some trouble there.
Yeah, you won't be camping with cows.
No.
We aren't doing that. That's definitely not happening. But yes, having a tent repair kit it's winds now that are the issue with repairing tents. But yes, really good point, Anna.
Just one between your group should be enough. I doubt you'll all break your tents. And I would say make sure you pack your barrel considerately. So put your things you definitely won't need access to during the day at the bottom. You shouldn't really have anything you need access to in your barrel anyway, but if you think there's something you potentially might need but probably not, just make sure that's at the top. So if it turns out you do need it, you don't have to literally empty everything out of the barrel, and because that would be quite a nightmare on the side of the river. And I would say decant things into sort of more packable containers. So don't bring a huge sort of washing up liquid like a big fairy bottle. Put a little bit into a travel shampoo bottle, works really well, or conditioner, and get things into sort of more manageable Tupperwares, which you can do with pasta and stuff. If you measure out, or like rice, measure out servings, put them in Tupperwares that stack together and pack nicely.
Yeah, or Ziploc bags is another good one with pasta. Yeah, really good points, Anna, really good.
I think that's about it. Dry bags would be a good one, because I tried to just use like just tie handle bags, which did work, nothing got wet, but dry bags are so much easier and looks nicer as well. If you've got a matching set of dry bags, you can just clip them onto things. It's so much easier than lugging around sort of 5 or 6 different plastics all together.
Yeah, I think that's true. It's the thinner dry bags is what you want. Don't go for the really thick ones. You don't need those. What you need is the thin dry bags. So the ones that they sell in Sports Direct. If anybody wants a link for those, I'll try and find that and send that round to you as well. Thanks, Anna. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording and then we can answer any other questions that people have got.